Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I appreciate you guys for tapping into yet another Akem'S analysis. She cheered with you all season. Now it's time to put a ring on it. L&M Fine Jewelry in Missoula and Kalispell, where Big Sky fans find the perfect engagement ring. L&M Fine Jewelry is the official jeweler of Akem'S analysis. You guys can find them in Missoula on American Way or on Main Street in Kalispell. Michael and Landy, the owners of L&M Fine Jewelry, they do a phenomenal job. Please go check them out. L&M Fine Jewelry, your diamond destination. Week 4 was very, very exciting in FCS football. Obviously, we're talking about the Big Sky Conference, Montana versus Indiana State. It was an absolute rout from the Grizzlies. We got Montana State versus Meecyhurst. That game was a little bit closer than I think a lot of people expected. If you're watching Akem'S analysis, you would have known that that game would not be as a blowout as a lot of people thought. UC Davis Southern Utah was a thriller for most of the game, and then UC Davis pulled away late. Idaho versus San Jose State was a really tight one. We'll talk about that. NAU versus Incarnate Word. NAU got the dub. Is Incarnate Word a ranked team? We will talk about that. And then Sac State versus Central Arkansas. Sac State has really figured out their offense. Cardell Williams is running it to perfection. We will get into that. I got some numbers for you. Big Sky teams put up an average of 41.5 points in week 4. High scoring games. Obviously, the Idaho State score goes into that. The Montana score goes into that. There were some big scores in week 4. That was up from 31.8 points average in week 3 and 21.08 point average in week 2. Now, obviously, a lot of FCS versus FBS games go into that metric, but the main point is a lot of points put up. There was only one FCS versus FBS game in week 4. I think there was only one in week 3 as well, but a lot of points put up in week 4 is the point I'm trying to make. Montana State will be moving down in my poll, but not too far at all, but they will be moving down. Some things I noticed this week, you guys will see it in my red shirt sports poll, so go check that out when it drops this week. Sac State will be a tough team to beat in the Big Sky Conference. I don't think they're going to be an easy out. I will talk about that when we get to talking about the Sac State game. Northern Arizona keeps winning and remains undefeated in the FCS. These are just some talking points, some good metrics that I wanted to talk about. And then lastly, what I wanted to say. There's been a lot of offense being displayed in the Big Sky Conference. Montana State seems to be the toughest and most sound defensively. Go back and watch all the games. Go back and look at the teams. Montana State currently has the best defense in the Big Sky Conference. The team who can play the best defense consistently will emerge as the top team in the conference. Take it to the bank, I promise you. Montana State's playing really good defense. Their offense seems to have taken a back seat. We will discuss all of this more when we get to all those teams, all those recaps, but please make sure you guys hit the like. Please make sure you guys hit the subscribe. Please make sure you guys leave me a comment down below. For my Montana viewers, Keenan is not going to be able to make it on today, but we will have him back on next week. And hopefully for the remainder of the season, he'll be joining us to recap the Montana games. So yeah, stay tuned in for that. But no Keenan Curran today. I'm sorry. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. We will get straight into it. Okay, Montana got the victory versus Indiana State. Montana looked really, really good on Saturday. My main point walking away from that Indiana State game, as you guys know, I was in attendance in the press box watching all of it take place, and I believe Kali Ayad has taken full control of this offense. He looked really, really comfortable. He looks like he's got a lot of confidence in his game right now. I mean, he is the guy right now, and if you guys, if you guys were at the game, if you weren't at the game, we do the pregame, postgame show on the stage for the GSA tailgate show. And one of my talking points before the game was that I wanted to see a full game from the Montana Grizzlies. I believe this was a full game from the Montana Grizzlies. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Obviously, you put some of the backups in, some of the second and third strings in towards the end of that game. You are going to see some points scored because Indiana State still has their starters in. They are starters for a reason. They are still a Division I football institution. So that's what happens. Eli Gilman, to me, is definitively the best running back in the Big Sky Conference. I thought maybe Adam Jones could threaten for it. I thought maybe there was some other, I think it was really just Adam Jones that it was between. And Adam Jones has not really shown up to the level that he showed up to last year. I think part of that is also has to do with the fact that their offensive line is not as good as they were last year. But that also begs the question, without a good offensive line, is Adam Jones as good as we thought he was? That's not an indictment on Adam Jones, but it does make you question. They had 2,000-yard rushers last year. They had the best offensive line in the Big Sky Conference, one of the best offensive lines in the country. Their offensive line took a step back this year. Adam Jones' numbers took a step back this year. Compare that with Eli Gilman. Eli Gilman goes off in 2023, 900 yards as a redshirt freshman. They probably had their best offensive line that they've had since Eli Gilman has been with the Grizzlies in 2023. 2024, he has a better season, rushes for more yards in 2024. And now 2025, he's off to an amazing start. I think the point I'm trying to make, and I'm not trying to downplay Adam Jones at all. He's still a good player. I think he's just having a rough start to the season. Eli Gilman can do it whether he has an offensive line or not. Currently, it looks like Adam Jones may not be able to do it without an offensive line. That's all I'm going to say about that. Still two really good players. Another thing Adam Jones is battling, well, he had Scott Humphrey last year. He has Julius Davis this year. The biggest point I think about this whole thing is I think the offensive line is not as good. The running lanes are not as easy to get to. And I think that's why Adam Jones is struggling. I think that's why the whole Montana State running game is struggling. But Eli Gilman definitively is the best running back to me. I say all that to say Eli Gilman stands alone as the best running back in the Big Sky Conference. The rushing numbers, the pass rushing numbers for Montana showed up again. I got the stats pulled up in front of me. Montana, actually, let's scroll down because we got Indiana State's numbers right there. But Montana actually, coming into that game, only had 1 sack. They had 3 sacks yesterday. You got a half a sack from Elijah Tolbert. You have half a sack from Peyton Wing. It's Peyton. On Twitter, I spelled it Pay. Apologies to Mr. Wing and Mrs. Wing. It's Peyton. I tweeted that. I'm not a premium Twitter member, so I couldn't pay for the editing. And I had already put the tweet out there. I didn't want to delete it. Apologies on that. Hunter Peck had half a sack. Solomon Tuluipupu had a sack, big time sack. Blindside got the quarterback. And then Hayden Schwartz had half a sack as well. You had an interception from Peyton Wing, who's looking like a ball hawk. 2 weeks in a row, he's got an interception. The interception in this game, please go watch my breakdown. I'll be talking about that, but it was a phenomenal play from Peyton Wing. I mean, just really good job. Elijah Tolbert leading the team in tackles. He led the team in tackles again this week. 9 total tackles, 3 solo, tackle for loss, a half a tackle for loss, and a half a sack. Solomon Tuluipupu, 3 total tackles, 1 solo, 1.5 tackle for loss, 1 sack. The defense showed up well yesterday. I thought Indiana State was a better team than a lot of people were giving them credit for. I did pick the score to be 45-17 in the pregame show, but I thought they were a little better than a lot of people gave them credit for. I thought that running back was a good player. I thought Montana did a good job keeping him under wraps. I thought their quarterback was a decent player. He made some good throws in that Eastern Illinois game, but how good is Eastern Illinois? I think we found out yesterday Eastern Illinois may not be that great. Ayat stats, 22 of 27, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 0 sacks as well. That's really big for the Montana offensive line, 0 sacks. Eli Gilman, 13 carries, 129 yards, or 13 carries, 120 yards. That's the net. I'm looking at the PDF right now. So they put the gross number of yards he got, and then they put the net. I don't know why they do that. Either way, he gained 120 yards, positive yards. 3 touchdowns on an average of 9.2 yards a carry. I think on the season, Eli Gilman is averaging 9 yards a carry. I think for the first 5 or 6 weeks in 2024, he was averaging 10 yards a carry. Malai Fanoti, 10 carries, 58 yards and a touchdown. Tommy Running Rabbit, the Browning product, the heart of Browning, 7 carries, 42 yards and a touchdown. His first touchdown of his career. Ayat also added a rushing touchdown. Michael Wortham had 3 carries, 29 yards. Hasheem Jones had 7 carries, 26 yards. Montana rushed for 303 yards on the ground, as well as 300 yards through the air. Michael Wortham was their leading receiver with 78 receiving yards. Next up, you had Jordan Deaver, who had 74 receiving yards on 3 receptions, 1 touchdown. It's worth noting that Michael Wortham had over 100 yards of all-purpose. He had 29 rushing, he had 78 receiving, and then he had a few in the return game. Michael Wortham had 26 kickoff return yards, so he's at about 130 all-purpose yards. That's where he should be. He had, if you count the kickoff, the 1 kickoff, the 5 receptions, and then the 3 carries. That's 8 touches for Michael Wortham right there. I think he should be within the 8 to 10 range in terms of touches, times he's seeing the ball, and Montana was able to do that. They rushed the ball very, very well, but I will say Indiana State ended with 240 rushing yards, 198 net rushing yards. A lot of that was due to the backups being in there. And I'm not trying to be an apologist or anything like that, but if you were at the game, if you saw it, you understand what that was. Abysmal tackling. The Montana defense tackling has been a little spotty, to say the least. But, I think they've been better in these last couple of weeks. But Nick Osho had 5 carries, 134 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a 55-yard rushing touchdown and a 79-yard rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter when I think the third strings were in at that point. So not trying to say that, what he was able to do late in that, but that's like, let's do that. Those 2 rushing touchdowns, say they don't get those 79 plus 55, they ended it with 198 rushing yards. Let's do 198 minus 134, which is the total that Nick Osho had. I mean, before those 2 big long runs that Nick Osho had, he didn't have any net rushing yards. He wasn't positive in the rushing stats. So understand that. They would have ended with close to 64 rushing yards had Nick Osho not had those 2 long runs. So understand what you're looking at. Understand the numbers. Yes, they did rush for 200 rushing yards. A vast majority of that was with the third stringers, with Montana's starters in. Ples Lawrence, who's their number 1 rusher, only had 57 rushing yards. I don't think he played in the fourth quarter. He only had 57 rushing yards. Torrey French had 14 rushing yards. They weren't able to run the ball very well. So give Montana credit. They did a good job. Obviously, the numbers aren't going to tell that. Also in coverage, I want to say this about coverage because I do think Montana has some holes in their coverage. They gave up 189 receiving yards in coverage. Rashad Rochelle, 4 receptions, 75 yards, a touchdown. He is a good player. Do not sleep on the fact that, yes, Prince Ford did get beat deep. Yes, it did look bad, but I am of the belief that Rashad Rochelle would be a number 1 receiver at a vast majority of schools in the FCS, and I would not be surprised if Rashad Rochelle was not at Indiana State next season. I know I don't want to wish that on Indiana State, but he's a winning football player. He plays good football. He wins consistently, and he should be at a place where he's getting more than 4 receptions a game. He could have had probably over 100 yards, and let's be real. That man could have had close to 200 receiving yards in the game yesterday. His quarterback unfortunately missed him. He was deep 2 to 3 times. He was at least deep, wide open deep 3 times in this game. And Keegan Patterson was not able to get him. So that causes you to pause against the Montana defensive backs. And that's what I was going to say. Montana only gave up 189 yards through the air. I think the Montana secondary is maybe the weakest part of their defense. The front 7 could use some work. Obviously, the linebackers, I think, are the stronghold of the defense. Keon Loud is an anomaly for that secondary. Dazelle Wilkinson is good in the box. How good is he in coverage? I don't think I've paid attention to him too closely in coverage, but I know Montana's got beat deep in coverage. I'm looking at Prince Ford. I'm looking at Kenzel Lawler. Those are the holes in this defensive secondary currently to me. Maybe even TJ Roush in coverage. You saw him get beat deep on the post last week. Those are some things I'm looking at currently with this Montana defense. It played well. They played well yesterday, only giving up 20 points. The defense is averaging 20 points a game defensively. That's not great. That's not terrible, though. They're probably one of the above average defenses in the FCS currently. But, if you take away that Oregon game for Montana State, they're giving up 12 points a game. Montana's given up an average of 20 points a game. They gave up 17 to Central Washington. They gave up 23 to North Dakota, and then they gave up 20 to Indiana State. That works out to be 60 points total, 20 points per game. That's how that is calculated, an average. But if you take away that 59-point scoring game from Oregon against Montana State, they're only giving up 12 points a game. So when you look at it from that standpoint, there's a huge discrepancy in where the best defenses in the conference are and where some of the average defenses is, because Sac State's giving up 21. I had some numbers in here. I'll actually tell you where the numbers are for defensively. Montana's giving up an average of, I don't have their number on here, but I know it's 20. Montana State, you take away that Oregon game, is giving up an average of 12.3 points a game. NAU is giving up 35 points a game on defense, so not great there. I think Idaho is giving up around 20 points a game as well. UC Davis is giving up 29 points a game. I think if you take out, I took out that Washington game for UC Davis. You take out that Washington game, and obviously you're not counting the Mercer game. They're giving up 29 points a game to Utah Tech and Southern Utah. So UC Davis, not great defensively. Idaho's probably the second best defense, I would say, in the Big Sky Conference. But Montana, they look good, man. I don't want to detract from anything. I am trying to give a full scope analysis of what I saw yesterday, and what I saw was a full football team, a team that can go very deep in the playoffs. Am I ready to say Montana is a national championship contender? I'm not there yet. I think this offensive line needs to play better for me to definitively say that they're a national championship contender. What I don't think a lot of people understand about a national championship contender, and maybe you guys do understand this, but it takes a full football team. Offense plays a big part in successful football, and I think Montana is starting to find their offense. They found their offense. Eli Gilman, it starts with the run game. Keali Ayat has to play clean. He has to play efficient. But I think Keali Ayat is at his best when he's throwing and running the ball. You saw him take the draw from about the 15-yard line. It was a 14-yard rushing touchdown. In the red zone, they drew up the quarterback draw. Indiana State wasn't even looking for it. He walked into the end zone virtually untouched. Somebody tried to tackle him right at the goal line. But that is where Keali Ayat, 22 for 27. I mean, he completed 80% of his passes. And you guys know, if you guys watching the channel, if you guys watch the pregame, postgame show, I was looking for Keali Ayat to be around 65 to 70% completion percentage. He was at 80 yesterday. When Keali Ayat is that efficient, when he's running the offense that well, he's at his best. Another thing about Ayat, his reads yesterday, his communication with Josh Gale. I'm going to talk about the communication with Josh Gale on my breakdown, so make sure you guys go watch that. But Josh Gale in his postgame interview talked about they noticed something in the defense, and there was openings in the defense where the defense was playing deep. They're opening up middle of parts of the field. One play was cover 3, one play was a cover 2. I'll talk about that all in my breakdown, but it's beautiful to hear Josh Gale talk about it, and then you watch the game, you watch the tape back, and it's happening just like that, which tells me that Josh Gale, Keali Ayat have ball knowledge. They're on the same page. They're communicating. A lot of times when you're on the sidelines and you see things in the defense, you're like, okay, I think we can get this. I think we can do that. I think we can do that. I was thoroughly impressed with Montana on Saturday. Obviously, it was Indiana State. I don't think this is the same Indiana State that Montana played in 2023, 2022, whenever they played them. I think this is a better team. I mean, I don't know. It's so hard right now. You obviously have the Eastern Illinois head-to-head. I can't wait until teams start playing conference play, because that's when you're going to get a real gauge on how good these teams are. But do I think Montana is a national championship contender right now? I do not. I think they're one of the top 5 to 6 teams in the country. This week, Montana will be the 5th ranked team. Montana will be moving up to number 4 in my bracket this week. Illinois State will be moving down, as well as Montana State will be moving down. Montana State's not going to move down too far, but I do think, based on what I've seen, Montana is the 4th best team, ranked team in the country. That's NDSU, South Dakota State, Tarleton State, who just lost their starting quarterback. We don't know for how long, but he was hurt on Saturday. And then Montana. You guys have to go look at my poll, go look at Red Shirt Sports poll, and go to the website and look at how I voted for the full poll to see where the rest of everybody ranks. But that's my top 4 currently: NDSU, South Dakota State, Tarleton State, and Montana. Montana had a good game. They played a full game, which is what I asked for. Ayat, it looks like he's very comfortable in the position. We will get to see what Ayat's full gambit of skills and where their poise is and where their confidence is this week in probably the game of the week, probably the 4th or 5th FCS game of the week that we've seen so far in the Big Sky Conference, between Montana and Idaho. Idaho is going to come in and try to beat Montana. The last time Idaho came to Montana, they're going to try to beat them. We will talk about that in my preview show on Thursday, so make sure you guys tune into that. But let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this Montana-Indiana State game down below, and I will move on. Okay, next, I would like to talk about Montana State versus Meecyhurst. I will say it again, as I said in the lead up. If you guys are not watching Akem'S analysis, if you guys are not watching my preview shows on Thursdays, which are new this year, I did a recap and preview show all in my one video last year. This year, we only recap on Mondays. On Thursdays, we preview. So make sure you guys tune in for both episodes. But Montana State versus Meecyhurst. I said in my preview show, Montana State was not going to beat Meecyhurst by 31.5 points. That is an outrageous line. If you've watched this Meecyhurst team, which I'm guessing a lot of people have not watched that Meecyhurst team, if you've watched what Meecyhurst has been doing to the rest of the FCS, they have lost every game. Actually, they're 1-3 now. They beat New Haven, but they lost every game. But if you watch the games, if you watch the outcomes, they pushed Sac State to the limit. They pushed Montana State to the limit. They pushed who did they play first week? I don't have their schedule right in front of me, but whoever they played week 1, they pushed them to the limit. I think it was who did they play week 1? Meecyhurst. I don't know. Meecyhurst has a tough schedule, but They have been a good football team. I think their quarterback, Adam Urena, is a big reason why they've been in a lot of those games, but they have been a good football team. Let's go by the numbers. Justin Lamson, 12 for 17, 121 yards, 1 interception. Colson was the leading rusher for Colson Kuhn. Colson Kuhn was the leading rusher for Montana State. 5 carries, 71 yards, no touchdowns. I will be breaking down that Montana State game, and I saw the long rush he had at the beginning of the game. Brother, we got to pick those knees up. Brother, we got to get there. We cannot get walked down like that. You guys don't watch my breakdown of that Montana State Meecyhurst game to know what I'm talking about, but my boy Colson, that was bad. Good win for Montana State, though. I think we may be looking back on this Meecyhurst game, and I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. This is a very bold prediction, and I have no basis on this bold prediction except that I want to make this bold prediction. I think Meecyhurst is going to end up being a playoff team. I think Meecyhurst is going to end up running the table in the NEC, and I think Meecyhurst, people are going to look back on Sac State against Meecyhurst, Montana State against Meecyhurst. You're going to be like, well, this is actually a quality win. This is a team that's in the playoffs, won the NEC, got the AQ out of the NEC, and this is a quality win for Montana State. This is a quality win for Sac State. This is a quality win for whoever they played week 1 or week 0, whenever that was. But I think we may look back on this Meecyhurst team and say, well, a lot of people didn't think they were good. They're better than people want to give them credit for. Because, I mean, Montana State winning 17-0, it's crazy. It shows how great the Montana State defense is. Meecyhurst got into the red zone multiple times, and Meecyhurst got into the red zone multiple times, and Montana State was able to keep them at bay. Now, obviously, Meecyhurst, you got to give yourself more credit. I know in a game when you're playing one of the top-ranked teams, Montana State's currently ranked the 4th team in the country. So Meecyhurst is thinking, we need points. We can't settle for 3. I'm telling you right now, Meecyhurst, take the points. Take the points. There was many times when Meecyhurst got in the red zone and they decided to go for it. Go for it on 4th down and goal. Go for it when they have a field goal, man. Just take the points. Because you take the points, that gives your offense more confidence. Next time you get in the red zone, maybe you're like, all right, we got to punch this in. We can win. You guys you lost by 17, man. Take the points. Okay. Lamson, 12 for 17, 121 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Colson Kuhn, 5 for 71, no touchdown. Julius Davis, 9 for 55, no 1 touchdown. Adam Jones, 12 for 45, 1 touchdown. Colson Kuhn, an average of 14 yards a carry. Julius Davis, average of 6 yards a carry. Adam Jones, an average of 3.7 yards a carry, but he added 3 receptions for 31 yards along with it. Chris Long, 2 for 30. The passing game for Montana State did not seem to be there. Lamson wasn't extremely inefficient by any stretch, but, they just didn't complete a ton of passes. And I'll say this. I gathered the same thing from when Meecyhurst played Sac State. Sac State rushed for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns on Meecyhurst, but through the air, they didn't really go crazy, which makes me think either the pass rush of Meecyhurst is really good and they're creating, but Lamson didn't even really seem to be super inefficient. They just didn't throw the ball a ton. So maybe they were making a more concerted effort to run the ball. 17 passing attempts for Montana State, 41 rushing attempts for Montana State. There was an article that came out last week that said they were looking to be of a more balanced offense. We didn't really see that in this game. One thing I do think that Montana State fell victim to in this game was late in that game, when it was the 4th quarter, I think they were more so protecting the lead than they were trying to extend it. It was a nasty, grueling game where it was much back and forth, and Montana State wasn't able to put up a ton of points. I think towards the end of that game, they were trying to get first downs, running the ball, just trying to run out the clock, instead of really trying to accelerate that lead and take it to the next level. That's just what I saw. Looking at the defensive numbers of Montana State, they did not give up any sacks, which is good. They collected 3 sacks themselves. There was a phenomenal sack by Zach Cruz and Kenneth Iden where they went on a stunt. And me and Colton Nuanez talked about this last year with when it was Brody Grebe. I think Kenneth Iden had 8.5 sacks last year. He went off last year. Brody Grebe was not as productive, but I believe Brody Grebe was still Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, because everybody understands the impact that he had on winning and on that defense. But when you watch Kenneth Iden on this stunt, you can tell that they're using him as eye candy. He's going to collect all the attention. He's obviously the big time player coming into this season. A lot of people know about him. Zach Cruz started on the outside. Kenneth Iden started on the inside. Kenneth Iden went on a stunt. Well, Zach Cruz was really doing the stunt. Kenneth Iden was taking up the attention of the guard and the tackle. Zach Cruz loop back around, come inside, get the sack. That is what Kenneth Iden is going to have to do this year. Obviously, Kenneth Iden is a really, really good player, but one thing he does provide for this defense is he can take a lot of attention away from everybody else. I mean, take his numbers yesterday. 1 tackle, 1 assisted tackle, no other stats. He might have had, I think he had a pass breakup. So the 2 stats for Kenneth Iden yesterday were 1 tackle and 1 pass breakup. Not a big game for somebody who's a preseason all-conference player, maybe a preseason all-American, somebody who was a really good player. That is because he is the focal point now. When offenses are game planning, they are game planning for Kenneth Iden. So I don't want people to look at Kenneth Iden's numbers and think, oh, he's having a down year. No, he's doing exactly what he needs to do, doing what he needs to do to affect winning. And he did that perfectly yesterday on that Zach Cruz sack. Really good job from Zach Cruz as well. When you look at the numbers, Camden Dowler, I believe Camden Dowler is an all-conference safety. He's having a really good year. 9 total tackles, 6 solo. Solo tackles is what you want. Those are one-on-one tackles. Nobody else is assisting me. 9 total tackles, 6 solo. 2 tackles for loss. I think Camden Dowler, or Caden, I keep calling him Camden. I'm so sorry. Caden Dowler. I keep calling him Camden Dowler. I think I did that all. I apologize. I sincerely apologize. It is Caden Dowler. Nonetheless, Caden Dowler is one of the top players on that defense, in my opinion. They got a lot of really good players on this defense. I'm looking at the PDF right now, and they don't have numbers, but I've been seeing a lot of good players. Like number 34, I was asking Coulter about him. Number 34 on that Montana State defense is a really, really good player. Number 45 on that Montana State defense is a really, really good player. They have some dogs on that defense. Caden Dowler is obviously, to me, the leader of that defense, but they have a lot of good players on that defense. I think Cole Taylor's the player I'm thinking about. I think Cole Taylor's the number 34, but 34, 45, some high-level players. Cole Taylor, 6 total tackles, 4 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup. I mean, there's a lot of talent on that Montana State defense. I think Montana State needs to lean on their defense. I think the way Montana State won this Meecyhurst game is the way they're going to have to win a lot of football games this year. It's going to be very similar to how Montana won a lot of games in 2023. Defense really led the way. Montana was able to put up points, but when the rubber met the road, when the Furman in the quarterfinals, it was defense. When it was NDSU in the semifinals, obviously they scored when they needed to in OT, but it was their defense. They leaned on their defense. Their defense made a play to put the game away. I mean, I think Montana State is a defensive-led team this year, and I think that's what they're going to have to lean on. I think their offense currently is a bit inconsistent with their search to be a more balanced offense. I don't know. Some weeks you see the run game do well. Some weeks you don't. Some weeks you see the passing game do well. Some weeks you don't. I mean, so far that's what I've seen from this Montana State team. And you know, I think they're going to have to lean on their defense. I think their defense is where things start. I think it's where things finish. If you didn't watch the Montana part of this video, I mentioned, without including the Oregon game, Montana State's defense is allowing 12.3 points a game. That is the top defense in the Big Sky Conference. The numbers aren't going to say it because when you include that Oregon game in the Montana State defensive numbers, it's crazy. But Montana State, by a decent margin, has the best defense in the Big Sky Conference. That is what's ultimately going to be what's going to lead them to the championship if they are to win the Big Sky Conference championship. It'll obviously come down to November when Montana and Montana State are playing, as well as Montana State has UC Davis later on in the season as well. So some ranked matchups that are going to loom big for Montana State, but their defense is playing at a very high level. And Caden Dowler, Cole Taylor, Kenneth Iden, Zach Cruz, I mean, a ton of players on that defense, Neil Daly, they have talent. Yeah, so those were the points I had. You guys let me know what you thought about this Meecyhurst game. I took away from it, and I have been trying to, but it was before the Sac State game that I really started to clock Meecyhurst, and I was like, man, this team is not as bad as a lot of people want to give them credit for. I'm very interested to see what they do when NEC conference play, when conference play starts, and in that NEC conference, see what they're able to do, because I think they're going to threaten a lot of people. And I think later on in the season, you're going to look back and be like, man, that Meecyhurst game was a quality win for Sac State and Montana State. They did a good job by being able to beat those teams. You guys let me know in the comments what you thought about this Montana State versus Meecyhurst game. What do you guys want to see improved from Montana State? What do you think about Montana State currently? I don't currently think they are better than Montana based on what I've seen, but I do think they are still a top ranked team in the country. So you guys can see my poll when it comes out this week, but Montana, as I said in the first part of this video, my top 4 is as stated. In North Dakota State, South Dakota State, it'll be Tarleton State, and I'm going to have Montana at number 4. So you guys can go see the rest of my poll to see where everybody else will be at. But that's my top 4 currently. You guys, let me know what you think about this Montana State Meecyhurst game. I will move on. Okay. I feel like it's been a minute since we've been able to talk about UC Davis. They played against Washington. I was not going to talk about that game. It was 70-10. There's no point in talking about a game like that. But they came back. Caden Pennick looks like a freshman quarterback, and I'll explain once we get into talking about the numbers, but he looks like a freshman quarterback right now. Jordan Fisher and Carter Vargas are dogs. Hey, they are some really, really good players. Now, excuse me, obviously Southern Utah is not the best defensive squad. They gave up 52 last week to NAU. I mean, Southern Utah is getting BTA on their defense currently, and it looks like there's no help in sight. Let's talk about Caden Pennick's numbers. 13 for 21, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did take 2 sacks. Let's look at the completion percentage of Caden Pennick. 62% completion percentage, so not terrible. Would love it to be a little bit over 65, maybe around the 65 to 68% completion percentage range, but this is where the game was at. Jordan Fisher, 12 attempts, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I'm just going to tell you guys right now, Jordan Fisher's dad, and I think I saw Jordan Fisher a little bit last year, but he didn't play a ton because obviously they had Land Larison, they had Mateo Perez, they had a lot of good players. Jordan Fisher's dad hit me up on Twitter. I dropped a video, I think, about Land Larison, and Jordan Fisher's dad, not Twitter, I said Twitter, he hit me up on TikTok and was like, hey, look out for number 20, my son, Jordan Fisher at UC Davis this year. He is going to have a really good year. And I was. In the Mercer game, I was looking at him. I thought he played well. In their next game against Utah Tech, I thought he played well. And against Southern Utah, he just had an explosion. 170 yards, 14.2 yards a carry. Jordan Fisher is up there in the upper echelon of running backs in the Big Sky Conference currently. But don't hold your breath, because Jordan Fisher did that in 12 carries. Well, look at what Carter Vargas did in 6 carries. 6 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, a long 50-yard touchdown, but 22.7 yards a carry. Absolutely phenomenal game. And then Caden Pennick added 6 carries, 52 yards, no touchdowns, or 6 carries, 37 yards. I keep looking at the gain versus net when you're looking at these PDFs. If you guys have seen them, you guys know what I'm talking about. The passing game for UC Davis didn't really go off as much as you would think, but they got the victory. So that's what it's about. 3 receptions, 45 yards, no touchdowns for Batu. Stacey Dobbins, 3 receptions, 35 yards. Carter Vargas, 1 reception, 32 yards. And that is the biggest thing that I said about Carter Vargas. They said he only, on the call, they said he only has 2 receptions on the season. And I think most of them are long receptions. But Carter Vargas is a 3-down back. You can run it through the tackles. You can run it on the outside. I think he's better on the outside, but you can have him all downs. Jordan Fisher is more of their in between the tackles runner. That's what he does better, in my opinion, than Carter Vargas. Carter Vargas is somebody you get to the outside and he uses his speed to outrun people. But he's a receiving back as well. I don't know how well Jordan Fisher does that. I don't see any receptions for Jordan Fisher on this stat sheet. But Carter Vargas does that at a high level and can do that at a high level. So the final score to this game was UC Davis 50, Southern Utah 34. And I mentioned this in the lead up to the video, but UC Davis is a good offensive football team. They have a lot of weapons offensively and even defensively. Porter Connors, Rex Connors, Goligoski on their defensive line, Syke on their defensive line. I mean, they got a lot of good players on that defense, but for some reason they haven't been able to put it together. In their 2 FCS victories, the 2 games, their 2 official, I put it on my notes, official FCS games, they've given up 29 points per game. Utah Tech, I can't remember how much Utah Tech put up on them, but it was a decent amount. They were down a lot of that game. I think they put up like 20, 28, something around there. And then yesterday, 34 from Southern Utah. So their defense is yielding 29 points a game in their 2 official FCS games. If you count that Mercer game in there, probably would have ended around 17, 20, 24, somewhere around there. They're still decently high in terms of defenses in the Big Sky Conference. I think defense is ultimately going to be the Achilles heel for UC Davis. Their offense, they're going to put up points, and most weeks you can guarantee that UC Davis is going to be able to hang in with most teams. I think where it really becomes a question mark is their defense. Their defense is either going to hold them back or they're going to help them win. I mean, Rex Connors became the all-time leading tackler. I believe he became the all-time leading tackler at UC Davis yesterday. Porter Connors is a great player. I've mentioned the names. Rex Connors is really that captain on that defense. They got good pieces, but they're inconsistent at times. Their tackling is inconsistent at times. Their ability to stop the passes over the top are inconsistent at times. I mean, they miscommunicate at times. I mean, Their defense just doesn't always stand up to the task. They don't always show up to the party, and that is what ultimately is going to stop them. But I mean, the weapons are there. Jacob Syke, 7 total tackles, 7 solo tackles. Nobody needs to help me. I don't need any help. When I see somebody, I'm going to tackle somebody, I got that. I believe Syke is the Harvard transfer. 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Jacob Syke should be Defensive Player of the Week, bar none. End of story. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 7 total tackles, 7 solo, 2 forced fumbles. That is the Defensive Player of the Week right there. I haven't seen a bunch of other numbers, but Rex Connors, 13 total tackles, 12 solo, 1 pass breakup. Rex Connors is a dog. Porter Connors, 8 total tackles, 7 solo. I mean, man. And maybe that's the biggest indictment on this defense is you see a ton of solo tackles, but you don't see a lot of assisted tackles. 6 assisted tackles for this UC Davis defense. That means, to me, a lot of guys aren't running to the ball. There's not a lot of hustle. There's not a lot of effort being had. I mean, you got a lot of good individual players. And when those individual players get put on one-on-one situations, they're making the tackles. They're bringing the guys down. But you don't see a ton of assisted tackles. That means they're not gang tackling. That means there's not a lot of hats to the party. You got to bring everybody to the party. And that's what I think is the biggest Achilles heel of this defense. It's a lot of me football. And I'm not even saying that they're selfish players. It's just a lot of, I'm going to make this play, but they're not getting a lot of help from the other guys on the defense. That's what I see when I watch the games, and that's what the numbers are telling me right here. So I think the defense of UC Davis is ultimately going to be what holds them back. I would love for them to be able to figure things out. I think they're going to figure things out. They're still one of the top offenses in the Big Sky Conference. There's a lot of offense in the Big Sky Conference. There's always been a lot of offense in the Big Sky Conference. I think we're seeing that be accentuated this year. Maybe Montana State's not necessarily one of the top offenses, which is weird to say, but Montana's got a good offense. UC Davis has got a good offense. Idaho State always has good offense. Sac State looking to be a pretty good offense. Idaho offense, I don't know. They're up and down. We're about to talk about them next, but I don't know about Idaho currently. They will be coming to Montana. NAU's got good offense as well. So there's a lot of offense in the Big Sky Conference. UC Davis got the victory. I don't have whoever they're playing in front of me next, but we will be watching to see who they're playing. I think UC Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody from UC Davis is watching this, I believe they might have multiple bye weeks this year. They started in week 0. I think when I was looking at their schedule, they do have 2 bye weeks on their calendar. Somebody in the comments can let me know. But I like UC Davis. They're a good football team. They're probably one of the top 10, 12, maybe 15 ranked teams in the country right now. We'll see when we start to really look at the full bracket, look at the full poll, and see where teams stack up and based on their performances. But this week, UC Davis is good. I was impressed to see. Not impressed, but I was impressed, but just like happy to see that they came away with this victory because I do think they are better than Southern Utah and. I think they played well. I said I was going to talk about Caden Pennick. Let me finish with this. Caden Pennick looks like a freshman. He's playing good ball, and you can tell he's learning and he's getting better every week. But there are just certain plays in the game where, like, there was one. They ran a mesh. Caden Pennick scrambling up. I think it was a second down or like a third down. I think it was like a second and decently long. It was like a 2nd and 8. And Caden Pennick could have scrambled and ran and got very near to the first down yardage. Instead, he tried to throw like a sidearm pass to his receiver on the mesh towards his left, and it was dirted. And in a situation like that, even the announcer was saying, it's like, brother, just run it. And those are the things that he needs to learn on and improve on. So that's what I'm saying when I'm watching UC Davis, when I'm watching Caden Pennick. He plays good ball. He's a decently good decision maker, but at times the decisions, it's like, man, like when you get 2-3 years into this thing, you're going to look at that and be like, man, I'm just going to run this. And I think actually even later on in the game, he did it better. So you can tell he's learning on the job. But that's what happens when you play a redshirt freshman quarterback. They need to learn on the job. And it's the same thing that Montana fans were saying about Keali Ayat last year. Yes, Fife was a good player. But if you're going to play Ayat, play him and keep him in there. Because you playing him and taking him out when he makes a mistake is not going to improve anything. So that's why I like what Tim Plow has done. Caden Pennick has not been perfect this year. He has made mistakes, and they've left him in there. Let him make his mistakes and let him move on. That's what we're seeing from Ayat this year. That's what we're going to see through Caden Pennick throughout this season. And it's exciting, and it's going to be exciting to see how he progresses throughout the season. One more thing on this UC Davis Southern Utah game. Joshua Dye is a dog. And Joshua Dye going off has me start to think, is it Southern Utah and RB factory? Or are they just doing a really good job of developing offensive linemen? And from that standpoint, like, are they just a really good running team and they have a really good offensive line coach and they have really good offensive line talent? Or are they bringing in good running backs? Because Tariq Lampson had about 1,900 rushing yards last year, and he was a dog. Joshua Dye is on the exact same trajectory as Tariq Lampson, and it's going to be exciting to see what it turns out to be. But Joshua Dye is a dog. And I'm excited to have Southern Utah in the Big Sky Conference going forward because they're playing good ball. They're coached well. Their defense needs to get better, but they play good football, and they're going to bring some competitiveness to the Big Sky Conference like they used to. You guys let me know what you thought about that UC Davis versus Southern Utah game down below, and I will move on. Okay, the next game I want to talk about is Idaho versus San Jose State. Unfortunately, this game was taking place as Montana was playing Indiana State. I'm obviously at those games, pregame, postgame show, like all that, so I wasn't able to watch that game. I did look back at the numbers, obviously, and once the recap gets on there, I'll obviously watch the recap, but it's been what I've been saying. Joshua Wood needs to play a consistent brand of football, and he'll need to be his most consistent in their most important game this week when they take on Montana in a highly ranked, I guess it's probably going to be the game of the week, unless NDSU, South Dakota State are playing. It's going to be the FCS game of the week. Montana, Idaho, rivalry game, ranked matchup in Missoula. It's going to be a good game, but Joshua Wood was 18 for 32, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. That completion percentage is 56% completion percentage. He also added 8 carries, 48 yards, and a touchdown. That is down from his average. He's been around 85. In his first 3 games, he had 85 plus rushing yards. He had 80. He had 100 against Washington State. He had 87 against the Tommies, St. Thomas Tommies, and then he had like 85, I think, last week in their Utah Tech game. But he has been very, very prolific on the ground. It seems as though San Jose State was able to keep him from using his legs and forced him to beat him with his arm. He still had a rushing touchdown on 8 carries, 48 yards. He had two passing touchdowns, and he did not give the ball away. He didn't throw any interceptions. So he's not like hurting his team, but in terms of, being super efficient, he's not there yet. And being consistent, he's not there yet. Another metric that I had on here. In games, in their 2 wins that they've had over 200 rushing yards, or for Idaho, in their 2 wins, they've had over 200 rushing yards. In their 2 losses, they've had under 200 rushing yards. I think that's something to pay attention to. Idaho, with what they're doing, it starts with the run. And I think that's why and how you see Joshua Wood become inefficient is when he's asked to throw the ball more than he should be throwing the ball. I think Josh Wood is going to lean. I think Josh Wood, Thomas Ford, and that Idaho offense, they lean on the run game. When the run game is going, they're going. When Joshua Wood can use his legs, when Art Williams is effective in the run game, when the offensive line is eating, that's when Idaho is at their best. I think when the run game stalls for Idaho, I think that's when they run into some problems. I think ultimately it all starts with their defense. Their defense is probably one of the better in the conference, and obviously correlation does not mean causation, but it's something to pay attention to. The fact that they've had over 200 rushing yards in their wins and under 200 rushing yards in their losses is not a correlation. That doesn't mean it's a correlation, but it's not a causation. Excuse me. But it is something that should grab your attention and something that, as an analyst myself or somebody watching the game, somebody looking to judge on how good a team is or how good a team isn't, that's a number that you should be paying attention to. But the biggest thing for me is I want to see Joshua be more efficient. Let's look at the defensive numbers for Idaho. Dylan Lane, 6 total tackles, 3 solo, a half a tackle for loss, and a fumble recovery. 5 total tackles for Matt Irwin, 5 solo, 1 pass breakup. Cruz, Hepburn, 5 total tackles, 1 solo. And then you got Isaiah King, who I believe is their backer, 4 total tackles, 4 assisted, 1 QB hurry. They had 2 pass breakups from Tim Jackson. When you look at the numbers from the running, Art Williams had 18 carries, 65 total yards, 1 touchdown. Nate Thomas had 15 carries, 42 yards, no touchdowns. And then Josh Wood, we talked about it. 8 carries, 41 yards. I put 48 on my numbers because once again, I'm looking at these damn PDFs. But he had 41 total rushing yards. Still 1 touchdown on an average of 5 yards a carry. He was there in terms of average yards per carry. Josh Wood led the way. Art Williams was 3.6 yards a carry. Nate Thomas was 2.8 yards a carry, and Josh Wood was 5.1 yards a carry. For the receiving yards, Emerson Cortez Meecyhurst, 5 receptions, 84 yards. Somebody in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost certain that Idaho has had a different leading receiver each week. And that has been one of my other question marks about this Idaho squad is Who is the guy at the receiver position? In 2023, it was Hayden Hatten. In 2024, it was Jordan Dwyer. They had Isaiah or Hamper. They had Hamper as well. Mark Hamper. They had Mark Hamper as that second receiver. This year, nobody has really emerged as the guy for Idaho. They've had a different leading receiver each week. I think last week it was Ryan Jeziero. I think the week before that it was Tony Hurst. I think the week before that it was Emerson Cortez Meecyhurst. I mean, they've had a different leading receiver each week, and maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they do it by committee. Maybe there's a ton of number ones in there that can do it. I mean, Ryan Jeziero, Tony Hurst is a fast guy. Emerson Cortez Meecyhurst is also a fast guy. I mean, they have a lot of guys. Maybe they have a lot of guys who can get the job done. But there's no one guy at that position who does it for them currently, and that's something I want to see. I would love to see somebody emerge. Maybe they don't need that, but in previous years when Idaho was one of the best teams in the country, that is what they did have. Idaho's a good team right now. They're not a great team. They need to put it more together, more consistently. Obviously, this is San Jose State, so it's an FBS opponent. I don't think San Jose State is great, but they are an FBS team, so we will see how they turn out the rest of the season. Idaho pushed them to the brink. They lost by 3. But the biggest thing is consistency for Josh Wood for me. The defense is where it's going to start. The run game has to be there for Idaho to be successful. I think that's what they want to lean on. I think in most games that Idaho's going to win and Idaho's going to play in, if they're going to win, they're going to have more rushing yards than they are passing yards. You're going to ask Josh Wood to throw less and be more efficient than you are for a lot of other quarterbacks in the Big Sky Conference. Caden Pennick's going to throw more than him. Idaho State's going to throw more than him. I'm sure Ayat's probably going to throw more than him most games too. Most teams are probably going to throw the ball more than Josh Wood if you want Josh Wood at his best. That's just what I've seen. Don't shoot the messenger. That's just what I've seen based on what I've seen this team do. When I've seen them be successful, the run game is eating. Art Williams is eating. Go back to that St. Thomas game. They ran the ball super successfully, heavily led by that Josh Wood touchdown to seal the deal. But they are a high-powered rushing team. I actually think in that St. Thomas game, Josh Wood had some phenomenal passes as well. I think he threw for 280 in that game. But the run game is a piece of it all too. So we will see as we preview this game on Thursday. We're going to be previewing Idaho versus Montana on Thursday. So tune in for the Thursday preview show. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really exciting conversation to talk about Idaho versus Montana. We'll get all the numbers going and all that stuff. But what do you guys think about this Idaho-San Jose State game? What do you guys think about this Idaho team as it stands? I believe they're still probably one of the top 10 teams in the country. I think I had them at 6, 7, or 8 in my poll this past week. We'll see what they are this week, but to let the Idaho fans know, just like I let the Montana State people watch my videos, my top 4 this week is going to be North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Tarleton State. Montana will be at number 4. I am moving Montana State down. That's based on what I've seen. That's not an indictment on Montana State. It's just you got to judge them for what you've seen in front of you. Each week, you're judging these teams based on what you're seeing, and teams will move up or down based on what you're seeing. And based on what I'm seeing, Montana should be at 4. So take that for what it is. You guys let me know what you think about this Idaho-San Jose State game. Let me know what you guys think about Josh Wood's performance. What do you guys think about this team as a whole? And I will move on. Okay, next we are talking about Northern Arizona versus Incarnate Word. The final score to this game was Northern Arizona 31, Incarnate Word 23. There's a couple things you need to consider with this game. Yes, Northern Arizona is 3-1. But yes, Incarnate Word is also 1-3. So is Incarnate Word a ranked team? Because right now, that's being judged as a ranked victory for NAU, which is a good victory for NAU. But based on what we've seen from Incarnate Word this year, should they be ranked? They are 1-3. 0-1 now in conference play. That first conference game was Nichols that they lost 20-6. I'm wondering if Incarnate Word is a ranked team. And I'm not trying to say this as an indictment against Northern Arizona because I think Northern Arizona is a good football team. I think they're more offensively led this year than defensively led. I think last year was the run game. I think it was that defense that they were going to lean on. Ty Pennington was not going to ask to do a lot. Ty Pennington was asked to be a game manager. This year, Ty Pennington is being asked to be a game changer. You are no longer asked to manage the game, not turn the ball over, and throw a few passes down the field, and we're going to win games. No, this year we need you to launch that mofo. We need you to launch it down the field. We need you to be extremely efficient. He was not yesterday, and we need you to be that. We need you to be a prolific passer. Ty Pennington is one of the only returning starting quarterbacks. I think the only starting quarterback in the Big Sky Conference from last year. One of the only. I don't think he was the only. One of the only though. And he's been playing like it. Last week he threw for an abhorrent number of yards. This week he threw 17 to 34, 50% completion percentage, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. On the ground, they only rushed for 116 rushing yards on the ground. Seth Cromwell was their leading rusher, 64 yards. Actually, he had 16 carries, 63 yards net, no touchdowns. They had 1 rushing touchdown, and it was from Ethan Clough. I don't even know who that is, but he had their 1 rushing touchdown, 4-yard rushing touchdown. In the air, Kobe Katzis, who's looking like an all-conference receiver, 4 receptions, 95 yards. Jason Raines, 3 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Myseth Curry, 1 reception, 46 yards, and a touchdown on a Hail Mary. That was an amazing play, and amazing throw from Ty Pennington. And then you got Jeter Purdy, 3 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown. 286 receiving yards total. Let's look at the defensive numbers. Incarnate Word, 11 total tackles. Declan Williams, 11 total tackles, 1 solo. My man is jumping on the pile for all of his tackles. 2 tackles for loss. Let's look at the NAU numbers, though. Travis Arena, 11 total tackles, 5 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack. NAU had 2 sacks in this game, 5 tackles for loss. You got Quentin Moten, 8 total tackles, 2 solo, a half tackle for loss. You got Quinlan Popham, 8 total tackles, 1 solo. So if you have been watching the whole video, you heard me talking about the UC Davis defense. They had a ton of solo tackles, not a lot of people hustling to the ball, not a lot of gang tackles. You look at this NAU defense, it's primarily gang tackles. It's primarily a squad. Like it takes a ton of people to bring guys down. There are barely any solo tackles from a lot of these guys. It's a majority assisted tackles. I think, let me go back to the numbers of UC Davis. UC Davis's defense total in the game had 6 assisted tackles. 6 assisted tackles. 6 assisted tackles. Compare that to NAU. 52 in assisted tackles. Are you kidding me? They had a total of 77 tackles. UC Davis had a total of 64 tackles. 6 of them assisted on 64 tackles. But when you look at NAU, 52 assisted tackles on 77 tackles. Let's do the numbers on that. 52 divided by 77 is 67% of their tackles were assisted for NAU. Compare that to UC Davis, 6 divided by 64, only about, what is that? 0.09, 1%. I could have done that math in my head. Am I dumb? Almost 1% of their tackles were only about 1% of the tackles for UC Davis were assisted. So the numbers don't tell the full story. That does not mean that, that doesn't mean too much. Take it for what it's worth. But 52 assisted tackles compared to 6 assisted tackles for UC Davis on NAU. It just shows the differences in some defenses. It shows the differences in philosophies. It shows differences in how they're practicing, how they're being coached, all of that stuff. But NAU got the victory against Incarnate Word. And this game is seriously, and this Incarnate Word team is making me think, are they supposed to be ranked? Are they a ranked team? Because they're 1-3. They haven't beat any quality opponents. They've looked like not a ranked team. They were talked about as a top 5 team coming into this year. I thought that Zach Calzada loss was going to be bigger than he thought it was, and it was. They started Richard Torres the first couple of games. He has not worked out. He was 2 for 2 yesterday, but he has not worked out. EJ Colson is looking like the better player. 28 for 36, 2 touchdowns on 292 passing yards. He did take 2 sacks. EJ Colson also added 13 carries, 78 rushing yards, 0 touchdowns. So Colson is a good player. Jameson, but that's another thing. It's like, it seems like the people that they thought were going to affect winning for them are not necessarily affecting winning for them. Jalen Walthall, probably behind Bryce Lance, was supposed to be the top returning receiver in the country in terms of FCS football. He has not looked that great this year. Now, I haven't obviously watched all of Incarnate Word's games, but I did watch their game against Nichols. He didn't look great. I peeped into this NAU game. He didn't look necessarily great. 6 receptions, 63 yards. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with this Incarnate Word team. They're 1-3. They are currently not one of the best teams in the country. NAU looks good. Not great. Like I've said about all the teams in the Big Sky currently, but they are ranked. They are 3-1. They are undefeated against the FCS. So you have to judge teams for what you've seen currently. And NAU has not lost an FCS game yet this year. So although they're giving up a ton of points, although their defense may not be doing it at the highest level, they are 3-0 versus the FCS. So you judge these teams for what you see right now, what they currently have done. And what they currently have done is be 3-0 versus the FCS and win every game that's in front of them. And currently, that Incarnate Word game is considered a ranked win. So you can look at a lot of other teams that have good records, a lot of other teams that have played good football this year. A lot of other teams don't have ranked wins this year. A lot of other teams aren't undefeated versus the FCS. Good football teams like Montana State are not undefeated versus the FCS. So you have to judge teams for what they are currently. It's a fluid scale. We're going to judge them week by week, and the narrative is going to get stronger on teams, and the narrative is going to get weaker on teams. Northern Arizona only strengthened the narrative right now because they are 3-0 versus the FCS. So you have to take that for what it is and judge them for who they are. Ty Pennington, not super efficient. He played winning ball yesterday, though, did not turn over the ball, and NAU is 3-1. So that's what it is. Incarnate Word is 1-3. I think we need to have some serious conversations about if Incarnate Word should even be ranked. So that's a conversation that needs to be had also. Is Incarnate Word ranked? Should Incarnate Word be ranked? But we'll judge that in another discussion for another day. I wanted to say one more thing about this NAU game. So I'm sorry to go back, but I wanted to say one more thing about the NAU game. NAU is averaging 35 points a game on offense. Their defense is giving up 35.25 points a game on defense. That is not a sustainable way to win games. And in the bigger games that NAU will play this year, I don't have their calendar, their schedule right in front of me, but NAU is not going to be able to play that way. Your defense can't give up as many points as your offense is scoring. And that's currently what they've been doing. And I think I included the Arizona State game in that metric. But even if you take that Arizona State game out, they're still giving up about 32, 33, 34 points a game, which is not great. So NAU's defense needs to do better. And the run game has to be better for NAU for them to really win the big time games later on in the season, those ranked matchups later on in the season. Obviously, they got a ranked win yesterday, but yeah, you guys let me know what you think about that down below, and I will move on. Okay, last but certainly not least, there's a ton of good things going on in the Big Sky Conference. We are talking about Sac State versus Central Arkansas. Central Arkansas is not a ranked team, but they were a fringe playoff team last year. Did they make the playoffs last year? I think they were fringe. I think they were on the bubble last year. Cardell Williams is the quarterback for Sac State, and Sac State, since starting Cardell Williams, has looked like a completely different football team. I don't want to say night and day, but their offense looks significantly better with Cardell Williams running things. And I don't say that to poo-poo on Jaden Rashada, but Cardell Williams has looked really, really good, man. Yesterday, 15 for 20. That's 75% completion percentage. 252 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. In the running game, 8 carries, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns, an average of 7.6 yards a carry. You also have Damian Henderson, 15 carries, 137 yards, 1 touchdown. You also have Rodney Hammond, 8 carries, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. You also have Ontario Smith Jr., 1 carry, 18 yards. One thing I am very interested in is Jamar Curtis hurt, or are there just better players there at Sac State? I know they have a bevy of running backs because Savion Red didn't even record a stat yesterday. He's a really good player. Jamar Curtis did not record a stat yesterday. He's obviously an All-American at the FCS level, multiple-time All-Conference player in the Patriot League. Man, what's going on? Where is Jamar Curtis? I don't know. But Sac State has looked better. I always thought Sac State's defense was decent. I didn't think Sac State. I think a lot of people piled on Sac State because of the noise in the offseason. I did too. So I'm not saying a lot of people. I was one of those people that made jokes and things like that after they lost their first game. Given the JV talk, JV, when they were losing to Meecyhurst last week, I made jokes as well. So I'm not counting myself out of this. But there's been a lot of conversation about Sac State since the season started. Since they started 0-2, they lost to Nevada, a game I think they should have won. They lost to South Dakota State, a game they probably could have won if they played better. If Cardell Williams playing, I think that game looks different as well. But a lot of people have been talking about them, and what they've done since then, since that Nevada game, is Cardell Williams is the definitive starter, and he showed that last week against Meecyhurst, playing a good game in the second half. That first half was choppy. They were down 11 points at one point, but they got it figured out, and I think we're going to look back on Meecyhurst, and I think we're going to have a very different judgment of them at the end of the season. But currently, that Meecyhurst team coming out of the NEC conference, when you're down by 11 to them, that is not a good look, especially a Sac State team that called the whole FCS JV. If anybody in the FCS was JV, and I don't mean this as an indictment, I don't mean this as an indictment on the players, the NEC could be considered the JV of FCS football. They aren't competitive in the FCS playoffs at all. They are a doormat for most teams who come in and play them outside of their conference. And it just is what it is. It just is what it is. I don't say that to be mean. It's just the fact of the matter. The NEC does not play a high level of football once it comes to playoff football. That's reserved for the Big Sky Conference. That's reserved for the CAA. That's reserved for the Missouri Valley. That's reserved for the UAC. Hello? The UAC is looking really good, and we don't cover the UAC heavily here, but man, West Georgia, Tarleton State, Abilene Christian. I mean, I could go on. I'm not going to, but the UAC, man, the UAC, that's all. Fear the Grimace. A la Hack City Pod with Sean Anderson and, gosh, why am I going blank on Sean Anderson? The Hack City Pod, you guys know the Hack City guys. They cover Fear the Grimace. That's all I got to say. Sac State looks good, though. I think Sac State looks good. I think they're going to be a tough out for anybody because they can run the ball. And any team that can run the ball is always going to be a tough out because they can control, they can kind of control things through the run game. Jordan Anderson, their leading receiver, 3 receptions, 98 yards. Ernest Campbell, their second leading receiver, 3 receptions, 61 yards, a touchdown. Then you got Sam Adams, 3 receptions, 45 yards. Rodney Hammond Jr., 2 receptions, 41 yards. Rodney Hammond, no, they got, Henderson. I'm thinking of Hammond. Henderson's a good player. They're running back. He had 137 yards yesterday. They got a bevy of running backs, though, at Sac State. Jaden Rashad did play yesterday, too. He was 2 for 2, 1 touchdown. So I think they're still trying to work him into the offense. Maybe they got some plays schemed in for him. I don't know. But if I were Brendan Marion, Cardell Williams would never see the field. If we're playing a close game, if we're playing a competitive game, and maybe that's why he got into the game, is maybe it was late in the game. But if we're playing a close, competitive game, Cardell Williams is going to be on the field for me. Cardell Williams is going to be on the field 100%. What I've seen from him, his ability to run the ball, his ability to throw the ball, and the thing with him running the ball is the fact that he runs the offense how it should be run. A lot of triple option, a lot of eye candy in the backfield, a lot of handoffs, pull, option with the quarterback and the running back. You see him do that. Jaden Rashad in the first couple games when he was playing, I don't think he pulled it one time. That is the heart of the go-go offense. Now, maybe it was a game plan thing. Maybe Brendan Marion said, hey, you don't have to do that. I don't know. But if the core of the go-go offense is the triple option, is the influence on the defense, that in-man, those linebackers, you need to do that because that's what's going to make you most effective. That's what's going to keep everybody honest. Cardell Williams does that like a G, and I see it every week. So I think Sac State is going to be a very tough out for anybody playing them in the Big Sky Conference. We don't have their calendar right in front of them. Maybe we can cover that on Thursday. Let me know in the comments if you guys would like to hear a little bit about that. We can look at their schedule. Now that we've seen these teams, we can reevaluate the schedules and say, okay, now that we've seen the non-conference play, where are these teams sitting? How do we see these teams finishing? Maybe that's going to be a good video. Maybe that's something I can do. But let's look at the defensive numbers. They don't have the totals for assisted tackles and total tackles. They don't have them totaled up at the bottom. Oh, they do, actually. They're not. It's not as, if you guys are looking at the NAU and UC Davis segments on this video, you know what I'm talking about. 7 total tackles for Oscar Moore, 4 solo, 1 tackle for loss. Goodness. Oh my goodness. Dylan Hampston, 5 total tackles, 3 solo, 2.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. That boy, nice. Jalen McLaughlin is an all-conference player. I continue to see his name pop up. He is a phenomenal player at getting to the quarterback, at affecting that team. Their D-line is good. The D-line for Sac State is the best piece on that defense. The strongest unit on that Sac State defense, bar none, is that defensive line. And also their linebacker. I mean, they got good pieces on that defense. Derek Houston, who am I looking at right here? Derek Houston is on here, but Akai Akui, Koa Akui is another good player for them. But Jalen McLaughlin, 5 total tackles, 3 solo, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. I mean, Sac State, I think, probably leads the Big Sky Conference in sacks right now. They had 8 sacks yesterday against Central Arkansas. I think they had a few sacks against South Dakota State. I think they had a bevy of sacks against Meecyhurst. I think they had a ton of sacks against Nevada. I mean, they can rush the passer. They have a good D-line. They have good linebackers. Sac State is not going to be an easy team for anybody to beat. And I know it's fun right now to pile onto them, but any team playing Sac State needs to have their screws tied up tight and needs to be ready for a 4-quarter football game because that is how Sac State is playing right now. Maybe they won't be the Big Sky Conference champions. We don't know right now. Conference play is getting ready to start, and we are going to be able to judge everybody for what they do on the field. But currently, Sac State is looking like a decent team in the Big Sky Conference. Would I call them one of the top 5 teams in the Big Sky Conference right now? Yes, I would. They are top 5 in the Big Sky Conference right now, and I think they're going to give a lot of teams fits, if not beat a lot of teams. They're going to be the team that they're like Montana doesn't have them. No, Montana does have them on the schedule this year. I think they get them at SAC actually too, so that's going to be a road game, a big road game for Montana. That will loom big for Montana. That's going to be a big game. Montana's been susceptible to the run this year. Sac State wants to run the ball. The running quarterbacks has been something that Montana has struggled with historically, so we'll see what that looks like. But man, Sac State is going to be that team that when you see them on your schedule, you're going to be like, we should win this game, but if we lose it, it'll be justified because they're a good football team. They have good talent. So, I mean, Sac State is going to, man, this is exciting. This is exciting. The fact that Sac State is playing good football now, it was Central Arkansas. How good is Central Arkansas? How good is Meecyhurst? That's what we're still trying to gauge, man. And that's what's so tough about non-conference play, and that's what's so tough about when you have such a small sample size. It's getting bigger. We had 2 games. We had 1 game of sample size. Then we had 2 games, and we had 3 games, and we had 4 games. But we still have the numbers jaded by a lot of FBS games in there. So it's like you don't get a true judgment of what these teams are until you get a healthy sample size of games. That's why when playoff contention comes, that's why when rankings come at the end of the season, you have 11, 12 games of a healthy sample size to judge these teams on. Currently, we only have 4. For most teams, for some teams, we have 3. For Montana, we only have 3. For Sac State, we got 4. And if you don't want to count the Nevada game, you only have 3. So take that for what it is. Sac State is not a slouch. If ranked at all, they're probably ranked in between the 20 and 25 best teams in the country currently. But they look like a good football team. They look like They look like a team that's better than what a lot of people were ready to give them credit for. Maybe even myself. I mean, I came into the season talking up Sac State. They kind of made me look dumb the first couple of weeks in the season, but they started to bounce back. And I even said in that South Dakota State game they could have won that game, and in that Nevada game they should have won that game. So looking at it from that standpoint, I think Sac State is sitting in a good position. They're 2-2. I mean, in terms of the Big Sky Conference, everything is still out in front of Sacramento State. So I did pick them to win the Big Sky Conference. That is not completely out of the question. So I'm not wrong yet. We will see next week if they win or lose. And we'll see as the weeks come on. But you guys let me know what you think about this Sac State football team. You guys let me know what you think about the rest of their season. Who do you guys think will pose the biggest threat to them? Who do you guys think? Just let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. And I will move on. Okay, unfortunately, we didn't have Keenan on this week. We will have him on next week. I wanted him to be on. I wanted him to be able to recap this Montana game, talk about what he saw from my yacht, talk about what he saw from all these Big Sky teams. Well, maybe not all the Big Sky teams, but maybe just Montana. But yeah, he will be back on next week. So you guys let me know what you think about that. I wanted to make one more point, and hopefully a lot of you guys watch my final thoughts. But if you are watching the final thoughts, one more note I had about the Montana defense. Their opponent completion percentage against Montana is currently 46%. So Montana's defense is doing a really good job of holding that completion percentage. And I don't know, because Montana hasn't done a really good job of getting to the quarterback, but creating pressure and creating air throws, I think, is what Montana is doing a really good job of. Because when you look at that number, it's like, well, they're not getting to the quarterback. They don't have a ton of sacks. Their secondary is not great. How is that the case? I think it's the pressure that they're able to get on the defense. Montana did a bunch of exotic blitzes yesterday. You saw it last week when they played. Who did they play last week? Gosh, North Dakota. That quarterback was 17-41. This week, their quarterback wasn't super efficient. They're being able to make quarterbacks efficient without necessarily putting them on the ground. They're creating a ton of pressure with those exotic blitzes, the way their defense is run. And I think that's what you're seeing from Montana. That's my last point about Montana. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love talking FCS football with you guys. I am 17 subscribers away from 2,000. Tell somebody to subscribe to my channel right now. 70% of the people watching my channel this week are watching my channel are not subscribed to the channel. So subscribe, give me a like, leave me comments, tell your friend to subscribe, share my videos with everybody you know. Anybody who wants to know about what's going on in the Big Sky Conference, I am covering all the top teams in the Big Sky Conference. We are covering the whole Big Sky Conference. If there's something worth talking about in the Big Sky Conference, we are talking about it on Akem'S analysis. And we talk about the broader FCS as well. But when we get into the season time, we got to get a little more pointed, because we can't cover the whole FCS. And that's the whole point, is we can't look at the whole FCS. You got to get more micro about it. And the micro for us is the Big Sky Conference. There's good football in the Big Sky Conference, and we're talking about it each and every week. So I want to thank you guys so much for viewing my channel. I want to thank you guys so much for tapping in with me. I would not be doing this if it weren't for my subscribers. So you guys are the heart of Akem'S analysis. You guys are the heart of Samuel Akem channel. The tailgate tour has been awesome. I've had a really good job talking to you guys in at the tailgates. I had a really good fun video this past yesterday. So that'll be coming out on Wednesday. Stay tuned in for that. But more than anything, thank you guys so much. Let me know what you guys think. Tune in on Thursday for the preview show. We'll be talking about Montana, Idaho. That's the big game of the week. So we'll be talking about Montana, Idaho. Hopefully, maybe I'll try to have somebody from the side of Idaho to come and preview that game with me. We'll see what that looks like. But big ranked matchup this week. You guys let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See you later.